Hey everyone, welcome in to another live edition of Next Round Preps. John Lunceford, Jerry Young here, and we are at Jordan-Hare Stadium for the Super 7, the first game going off tonight, Class 7A. Thompson taking on Auburn. Jerry, people know you from this game from a few years ago. You ready for another heart attack tonight?
Yeah, we just did a pregame show on over on the Weekly Warrior preview, or on the Warrior Nation Network, I should say. And we had AL.com and some guys from the TV side. And yeah, I must be pretty famous from the Auburn-Thompson game a couple of years ago. So, yeah, it's been quite fun. So, but, there's a lot going on, all week here at Jordan-Hare.
Yeah, there's 7 games. We just had the flag football championship. Auburn won that one over Oxford. So Auburn trying to get 2 championships today. As we'll start with Class 7A. We also have tomorrow will be 3A, 1A, 5A, and then Friday will be 4A, 2A, 6A. And I know for a lot of Birmingham people looking forward to Mountain Brook playing there on Friday against a very good Saraland team that my Homewood Patriots almost got. Right there in overtime, tried to go for 2, get the win, didn't quite get it. But, all right, we'll start with this game tonight. Auburn taking on Thompson. Everybody knows Jerry. If you listen to our intro, it's Jerry screaming that field goal at the very end of that one. It's pretty much the intro to anything high school in the state of Alabama because of how famous it was to call her around the entire world on that field goal. But this is a game that Auburn had won. Auburn feels like they had won. You felt like Auburn had won. Everybody felt like Auburn had won. I was getting ready to turn it off at home, and Thompson came back and won. So Auburn's hungry.
That game was so unique. So many things had to happen in a row, and we've gone over it so many times. But for those of you that didn't see it, Thompson had the ball at the 20-yard line, and that's the other 20-yard line, okay? Had it 4th down, went for it on downs, lost it. So Auburn turns it over. They've got it 1st and 10 on the 20. Instead of taking a knee right at the line of scrimmage, they backed up. They came back to the 30 and took a knee, let as much time run off the clock as they could. Thompson called timeout. They did that 3 times. They ended up back at midfield. So then it's 4th down. Thompson uses their last timeout, stops the clock, and they have to punt. Well, I'm already thinking, thanking sponsors, thanking people. There's like 22 seconds to go. All of a sudden, they punt it. We block it. We run it back for a touchdown. I say, wait a minute. Hold on. We just blocked the punt and scored. Now there's 18 seconds to go in the game. We try an onside kick, recover it. We throw 2 passes, get pass interference calls on both of them. Down to 2 or 3 seconds left in the game. We attempt a 35-yard field goal attempt. As the zeros hit the clock, it goes through the uprights. Thompson wins the game by 1 point, 29-28. So we had a 9-point deficit basically with 18 seconds to go, and Thompson wins the game. So, yeah, I went a little nuts in the booth, and that's okay.
When there's, games are getting down towards the end and the team's down 14 points, and it's like, look, crazier things have happened. The phrase crazier things have happened is mentioned all the time in sports. Whenever they say that, now that is the craziest thing that's happened. So when they say crazier things have happened, I say, I remember one.
That's right.
When Thompson played Auburn in the Super 7. However, that game was at Jordan-Hare Stadium. I don't know which way technically it is from here, but that one was at Bryant-Denny. We're at Jordan-Hare Stadium. That was at Bryant-Denny Stadium. This one, though, a home game for Auburn, and the fans are hungry. I saw them all filing out because, like I said, they just won the flag football championship, the girls' flag football championships. And so now I guess they're all going to get something to eat, and they're getting ready to come back. They're technically the home team. They'd have been the home team whether they're wearing blue jerseys or white jerseys, but it's going to be a tough one here for Thompson to try to beat Auburn again.
I think so, and the word we're getting, and it's not official, the word we're getting is this the most ticket sales of any single game so far of the Super 7 championships. Of course, they're in Auburn, and it's Auburn. Everybody in Lee County is going to be here. Thompson travels well. So we'll see if that's true or not. But, this could be the biggest high school game in a Super 7 championship as far as attendance ever.
I mean, we've seen a lot of big Thompson crowds over the last few years, especially last year at Protective Stadium. We've seen plenty of good Hoover crowds when they were at Legion Field back in the day. And, we've seen plenty of good local crowds. Probably one of the biggest crowds I've ever seen in my life at the Super 7 was Opelika here when they played Ramsey and lost a few years back. Ramsey back again in 6A. We'll get to that in a second. But that was probably one of the biggest crowds I've seen because Opelika was always in 6A back in the old 6 classification system, never making it because of teams like Hoover knocking them out before they got to that point. And then being in the South, teams like Prattville, teams like Daphne, all the teams that made it onto the Super 7. And when they finally made it, they packed out that home side, and then Ramsey came in and beat them. So Thompson now hoping that Thompson can come in and beat Auburn in this one. But, this is one that a lot of people are going to have their eyes on just in case a quarterback named Harsin got into play because as much as we've been talking about that this week, everybody's been saying, oh, by the way, he's still here because his son plays for Auburn. A lot of eyes are on the fact that, wait, Thompson has an 8th grader. That's where everybody stops. Every casual fan stops at, wait, Thompson's playing an 8th grader. They're one of the top teams in the country, and the quarterback's an 8th grader. Tons of storylines to watch in this game tonight.
So, John, I get a call from a guy in Mississippi who is a sports broadcaster up there. And he told me, he said, whether Thompson wins this game or not, it should be a national story for sure if Thompson wins this game with an 8th grader quarterback. And I kind of agree with him.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, I'm a Thompson homer. I get that. But an 8th grader quarterback, and not a 1A or 2A team, but a 3-time state champion 7A super classification team.
And, oh, by the way, the quarterbacks you had before – one's now in North Carolina.
Right.
There, I like to say backing up Drake May. I know he's not actually the second string right now as a freshman, but playing North Carolina, still a good team, playing for an ACC title this weekend. And the other one went on to Maryland or Alabama, and then Maryland, having a pretty good career, obviously, and to his little brother, Chalia. So there's been 2 legit quarterbacks playing. And then Zach, who started this year, was a guy who had to play a lot of the playoffs last year because Connor Harrell, the one that's in North Carolina now, got hurt. And, yeah, when it switches to an 8th grader.
And Sawyer Pates on Auburn.
That's right, yeah, here with Auburn now. So, all the quarterbacks have moved on to really good things. And that's not to say that these quarterbacks aren't going to move on to good things. But when it's an 8th grader, you're thinking, man, how's there not somebody else in the wings? There is. Zach, he's played really good this season. But Trent has that arm. And when you look at, Trent's, I won't say lineage, but if you want to look at his, very short career that he's had, there's a lot of influence there from major, quarterbacks that he comes, from that kind of Hawaiian quarterback tree that a player like Talia and Tua came from, that a player like Marcus Mariota came from, Timmy Chang, all these names that we know from college.
Well, you said that. Has he started 3 games?
He started 3, all 3 playoff games.
Okay,
yeah.
Here's his numbers. Give you an idea. Remember now, 3 games, 923 yards, 10 touchdowns, and a 70% completion rate as an 8th grader.
It's not too bad.
Not too bad.
I couldn't have done that as a senior. I couldn't have done that in college. I couldn't have done that. I can't do that right now out there. I mean, that's the thing. He's so accurate. And look, you can watch him and realize he's an 8th grader sometimes. Is he ready to go suit up for Alabama or Auburn right now? No. Is he ready to go play in the NFL? No. You can watch him and see, look, he's an 8th grader. But then you throw that 8th grade tag on and watch his arm and watch how accurate he is throwing the ball. Watch how deep he can throw the ball. And you're like, all of a sudden, your mind is just blown with what he can do as an 8th grader. I will always preface it as an 8th grader because he isn't, out there being an absolute perfect quarterback. Yeah, you can see certain things. But for where he is, that's the scary thing. Think in a couple of years when he's a 10th grader, when he's an 11th grader, when he's a senior. I mean, he's the kind of guy that, as much as we talk about an Arch Manning now, being, the be-all, end-all for quarterbacks just because of what his last name is. Right. The name Trent Seaborn is going to pop up there pretty soon.
Yeah, and here's an advantage he's got. He's got Mark Freeman as a coach. Yep. Mark will call the plays that will lend to that youth and that inexperience. It'll be short pass plays, get it out of the pocket quick, and get it out of his hand quick, safe passes, calm him down quick, and the running plays will lend to his strengths as well. So, will he air one out a time or two? Maybe. Will he go to the tall receivers? Maybe. We don't know that, and that's part of Coach Freeman's plan. We'll see how he does.
On the other side, Clyde Pittman, the starting quarterback for Auburn. Don't want to just make this all about Thompson, even though we're a little biased because of that. Sorry. But we're sitting in the Thompson broadcast booth right now at Jordan Hare, bringing you this live next round preps. But on the other side, Clyde Pittman, quarterback there for Auburn. Look, Auburn's been really good. Like we said, easily could have had a win a few years ago when they played Thompson. Central Phoenix City has been the team out of this region when Auburn hasn't been it and thought they were going to be it this year. They beat Auburn in the regular season, fall by 1 point. They were ahead going into that game late. when Auburn scored to win 14-13 in that game. Patrick Nix, obviously, everybody knows him and knows what he did with Bo at Pinson Valley and what he did with his younger son, Caleb, at Central last year when Thompson beat him. But Clyde Pittman won the job. He won it from Davis Harson, who is Brian Harson's son. A little bit of a younger player, so he's not, like a senior that lost the job or anything. I think he's in 10th grade right now. But, that's a storyline that everybody's been following here at Auburn right now, is obviously with Hugh Freeze coming in. But, when it came to this game, everybody's like, hey, don't forget the state championships tonight, because we get all wrapped up and talking about Hugh Freeze and everything going on with Trent Dilfer. I want to ask you about that in a second. I'm going to UAB. But, everybody gets all caught up in that, forgets, hey, there is a high school game tonight. And everybody's like, well, doesn't Brian Harson's son play? No, I think he's a backup now. Well, is it Thompson using an 8th grader? That's what everybody instantly says. And I'm like, hold on. Let me tell you about this 8th grader. Let me tell you about this offense being run with this 8th grader. So I can't wait. I mean, we've talked about this on I Feel Like Nonstop. Obviously, we've been doing it here on the Warrior Nation Network, where you can hear us call the game tonight. But I'm ready to play football.
That's right. WarriorNationNetwork.org. By the way, the game's being broadcast on Alabama Public Television. If you don't like what you hear on that station, you can turn the volume down, watch it there. Go to WarriorNationNetwork.org. Listen to John and I call the game.
I mean, right down the way is, Andy and Stan calling the game. How many people turn the game off and listen to them, or listen to Eli or Chris Stewart, call the Alabama game? You can do that with the Thompson game as well. We always have it for you here at the Warrior Nation Network. All right, real quick, let's get into some of the other games we're going to have this weekend, because we didn't do a podcast today because, well, we usually record it on Wednesday afternoon, and we're here at Jordan-Hare Stadium. So we're kind of doing a live version of that here. In Class 1A, we'll jump down to the bottom at first and go over the matchups. Leroy taking on Pickens County. The Tornadoes beat Coosa Christian last week. Leroy beat Millery. Pickens County taking on Leroy. I got Pickens County in this one. I think Pickens County, they've been here before. They they kind of know what's expected of them. I'm assuming they've played here at Auburn. It seems like they've played a bunch of them, but I like Pickens County in that one.
I do too.
Let's move on to Class 2A. I'm trying to pull my spread. When we do this live, you don't have everything.
Oh, you wanted me to.
Perfect.
While you looked that up. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay.
I have Leroy as a favorite in this one, but I like Pickens County overall, even though Leroy has the better record. In Class 2A, this is the one of all the games I can go ahead and write and pin who I like in this one. That is Fife. I got him as a 17-point favorite, and I like Fife in this one. The only unbeaten team that actually made it to the Super 7 this year.
Yeah, I think Fife is, such a great history there. They seem to win almost every year.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
14-0 taking on BB Comer, who is 12-2. In Class 3A, St. James taking on Piedmont. Piedmont, a team that's typically here. Rush Probst actually plays for Piedmont right now, so they are in the state championship game. I guess St. James is a 5-point favorite. I would lean in the direction of Piedmont here, but I can see this one going either way.
I think the team from Montgomery, St. James, is going to get the job done.
Been really good. Dropped down to 3A, playing really good this year. In Class 4A, this is maybe the biggest shock. Andalusia got a huge win over Montgomery Catholic and knocked them out of the playoffs. Andalusia, they're taking on Cherokee County, who's had a magical playoff run and a magical season, but this is my biggest favorite. Andalusia minus 18, according to my little formula I like to plug things into. I like Andalusia in this one.
Well, Cherokee County, always a tough out, but I agree with you. After last week's win by Andalusia, I'll have to go with them.
Class 5A, I said 6A earlier. We're talking about Opelika and Ramsey. It was 6A when they won. 5A now. Ramsey taking on Charles Henderson, who won last week as well. Charles Henderson, They've got a couple wins over those Mobile schools, including UMS Wright a couple of weeks ago. But once again, I like Ramsey here. This is the kind of thing. It's like with TCU. TCU, we picked against them the last 6 weeks for them to lose, trying to find a way in our mind for Alabama to make the playoff. It's the same thing with Charles Henderson. We keep picking them to lose, but they keep on winning. But Ramsey's good.
I tell you, Ramsey, I called them last Friday night. Great-looking football team. Pleasant Grove gave them a run for their money. I got to go with the Rams.
All right, Class 6A, Mountain Brook, 12-2 in the season, taking on Saraland. Didn't really get to watch a lot of Saraland. Watched a little bit of the Theodore game last week, but watched a lot of that game. We were at the Thompson-Hoover game, went back and watched the Saraland-Homewood game, my alma mater playing them, and they got up 27-0 in that game. That was the end of the first quarter. Homewood scored 4 touchdowns there at the end of the game in the last 4.5 minutes to send it to overtime, where Saraland ultimately won. So that shows Saraland, defensively, you can put some points on them, but Mountain Brook's never been known as a super offensive team. They're more of a super defensive team under Chuck Yeager. But no Robert Evans anymore.
That's right. Well, because we're based out of Birmingham, we know the Spartans much better. Saraland's had a good program for years, but you got to think Mountain Brook's going to take this one.
Yeah, I like Mountain Brook in this one. Got him as a touchdown favorite, but it wouldn't shock me if Saraland won that one. And then, of course, Auburn taking on Thompson. We're a little biased in that pick right there. But I do have Thompson as a 9-point favorite in this one. I mean,
really?
This is the problem with right now. You plug in North teams and South teams that never touch each other.
Yeah.
In the regular season, you get one occasionally. Because we talked about it, I guess it was after the Vestavia game. And it's like, look, I wouldn't mind a trip down to Mobile to play a team, just to kind of have that chance to get out. We got to go to Georgia this year. A team from Tennessee came down to Thompson. So it's been nice to kind of get out and play those different games instead of the same old. But for the most part, you don't play each other until you get to the Super 7. You're not going down south to Auburn or to a Fairhope or Foley that, had a Region 1 team made it. It's hard to really match these teams up. Auburn did play Hoover. Auburn beat Hoover. So Thompson's 1-1 against Hoover. Auburn technically has a better winning percentage, but that was also the first game of the season. Everybody's trying to figure things out. Hoover didn't know the quarterback situation at that point, and it was a 3-point game at Crampton Bowl. Way more of a home game for Auburn, obviously, in Montgomery. But, I have Thompson about a 9-point favorite in this one. All right, we talked about Hugh Freeze and how everybody's been talking about Hugh Freeze this week.
Okay.
And that's been the big storyline. But last night, I got a text in our text thread with all the next round guys on it saying, hey, I heard a name that's going to UAB. It's Trent Dilfer.
All right.
And I was like, that's an interesting name because, the players wrote the letter. They wanted Brian Benson to stay. And I think all things considered, he's done a good job despite being interim. But we saw Trent Dilfer.
We did.
Up close and personal this year when Thompson played Lipscomb Academy. And so I've made the joke probably 5,000 times since hearing that last night and since the report actually came out. This was probably an hour before the report came out. We were talking about it in our text thread. But since that report came out, I've been talking about, well, he beat Thompson. So what else how much harder is it to go to UAB and win? I mean, UAB played LSU this year. You beat Thompson, you can go beat LSU. Why not? But it's going to be interesting to watch him come in because they didn't win that game on offense. He's an NFL quarterback, and Matt Hasselbeck's kid actually plays quarterback for him. He wasn't the starter when we played him, but so he has those NFL ties, just like a Deion Sanders would have. But they had a pick six in the game. They had a 99-yard fumble return for a touchdown. That's why they won the game. 14 defensive points. Wasn't blown away by the offense, and so I don't know if he's going to come in and turn UAB into an offensive juggernaut. I don't know if he's going to come in and turn them into a defensive juggernaut. They already can run the ball really well. They already have a pretty good defense. But what do you think about Trent Dilfer going to UAB?
That's a done deal?
Yeah, they announced it this afternoon.
Okay, I've been obviously busy doing this. So, my first gut reaction is, well, he beat Thompson, so give him the job, okay?
Well, how many times have people, mostly joking, said Rush Probst back in the day?
Yeah.
Or Josh Niblett or Mark Freeman.
Right.
How many times have those names been thrown out? Whoever the powerhouse is in Alabama, well, what's the next step up? Well, why not go to UAB? They need a football coach. Because this is back when UAB, before Bill Clark got there and all that, these names started getting thrown out. It was mostly joking, but now it's like a high school coach. Now he's an NFL quarterback. It's like Phillip Rivers down at St. Michael.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing.
That's right.
Now, St. Michael isn't winning state championships. He's doing okay down there, I think, all things considered. But, we saw Lipscomb Academy. They're still a top 15 team in the country. They're playing for a championship tomorrow. He was announced today as head coach. He resigned, but he said he's going to coach in the game tomorrow. They're playing for the 2A championship there in Tennessee. But I can't imagine what it would be like if, hypothetically, Mark Freeman were to leave for a college job yesterday and then be like, oh, no, don't worry. Everything's perfectly fine. I'll coach the game the next day. But I thought it was interesting Trent Dilfer heading to UAB.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. I'm not for announcing it today, but
it's really social media. That's the world we live in.
Right.
They were not going to announce it. From what it sounds like, the athletic director from Lipscomb Academy jumped ahead of it. I just envisioned that, because everybody mentions Mark Freeman's name so much, I just envisioned what if that were Thompson? And it's, I can imagine what Vince would have to go through, what he would have to go through if something like that happened. The social media world that you have nowadays, every reporter was mentioning it because, right now we're in the middle of all the coaching searches. And it's like, well, he's going to UAB. And they said, we can't hide from it anymore because every player is going to say, well, are you going to UAB? Yes, I'm going to UAB. What is that right before you walk into the field?
That's right.
At a game. So they had to do it today. But it's interesting. We saw Lipscomb Academy firsthand. They were a good football team. I don't know if that's a home and home for next year, but maybe a little different without Trent Dilfer. But anyway, all right, Thompson taking on Auburn here, Class 7A state championship. Jerry, tell them one more time where they can listen to us.
WarriorNationNetwork.org. You can listen to it there. And, John, since we're not able to play commercials, I want to just thank our sponsors this year. Holloway Home Loans, thank you very much for doing that. Our friend Philip Pritchard, who owns Video Visions Media Marketing. I don't know which one of his many places he's been advertising, but you can Alabaster Living TV, Tiger Town TV, Lake Martin TV, any of those places. So all there. Cartridge World of Vestavia and Albritton and Artivino Family Dentistry. So thank you so much for sponsoring Next Round Preps. I guess we'll do a show next week as we'll wrap it up or not.
Sure, why not?
We'll do one next.
I'll talk high school football anytime you want.
That's right. We'll wrap it up next Wednesday and tell you who all won the 7A and kind of wrap it up next week.
Yeah, maybe Jerry will have another moment this year with that Auburn Thompson game where we can use something new in our intro coming up next year. Not that I don't love hearing your voice, but we got to have a new call coming up. A new crazy call. Maybe it'll happen tonight. Like you said, you can listen to the game warriornationnetwork.org. It is on APT as well if you don't watch it, but always turn that down. Listen to us, and we'll have it all for you. Thanks for tuning into this extra special, I guess, live edition from the press box here at Jordan-Hare Stadium of Next Round Preps. And I don't know. We'll see what happens. Should be a good one. I got to hit end broadcast now.